Hello, I'm Jason Turvey of the Class Consciousness Project, and welcome to the latest in our series of bulletins updating you on class struggle in Britain and across the world. And we'll start our bulletin on Britain's railways. And there's more industrial action on the way as Train Drivers Union ASLEF announced that they will be taking strike action on Friday the 1st of September in their seemingly never-ending dispute over pay. The strikes will take place across 16 train operating companies and will close down or severely curtail train services across the country, and will be followed by a further overtime ban which will start on the 2nd of September. Train drivers haven't seen a pay rise since 2019 and have seen the cost of living skyrocket in the same period of time. The train operating companies have been bankrolled by the government since 2020, and it's the government which is acting as a roadblock to any deal between ASLEF and the operators. Meanwhile, rail workers in the RMT took part in their own strike action on the 26th of August in their dispute over pay, as well as the government's plan to close over 1,000 ticket offices. The consultation period, which was extended, closes on Friday the 1st of September, and to date some 460,000 people have made their feelings clear. Now, there's still time for you to take part. Just go to the RMT's website and follow the links to the consultation. Turning now to the NHS, and consultants have walked out on another 48-hour strike in their ongoing dispute over pay. The government has said that negotiations are over after it imposed a paltry 6% pay rise on the consultants, who suffered a 35% erosion to their pay over the last 15 years. The Health Secretary Steve Barclay said that the government had accepted the findings of the independent review body, which recommended a 6% pay rise, before pointing out how much the consultants get paid and that they have a good pension. But an unnamed Tory backbencher told the newspaper last month that, quote, the idea we would give less than the public pay recommendation is impossible. We basically rigged those anyway. They are told what the budget is. The BMA have announced more strike action, which will take place on the 19th and 20th of September, as well as on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th of October. It looks like for the consultants this dispute won't end anytime soon, and the government has, unsurprisingly, acted appallingly towards a group of workers who aren't without options in terms of who they work for and where they work in the world. Turning now to retail, and the future of some 12,500 jobs appears to be bleak at high street retail chain Wilko, which entered administration earlier this month, has struggled to find a buyer and is looking down the barrel of liquidation. Media reports suggest that over the last 10 years, some £77 million has been taken out of the company in dividends, while a £50 million black hole was opening up in the company's pension fund, and the company itself was falling into over £40 million of debt. The GMB union, which represents about a quarter of the staff working at Wilko, said this week that Lisa Wilkinson, the granddaughter of the founder of Wilko, James Wilkinson, hasn't even spoken to workers about to be made redundant. The chain has been the victim of a decline in high street and the blithering incompetence of its owners, who scrapped their pilot high sell it cheap model, took millions of pounds out of the company, failed to respond to the shift from the high street to out of town locations, and lost its credit insurance, leading to supply issues and rows of empty shelves. Now, we've written an article on the collapse of Wilko, so go to our website and take a look. Turning to local councils now, and Unite has won mandates for strikes in 23 local authorities across England and Wales in a dispute over pay. Members rejected a pay offer of a paltry £1,900, which goes nowhere near meeting the needs of workers whose food and fuel bills have gone through the roof, leaving them struggling to pay bills and afford essentials like clothes and food. The first strike action will take place on the 29th and 30th of August in the Labour-controlled council of Chesterfield in Derbyshire, with other councils from Cumberland to Ipswich to Westminster taking their own action in the coming weeks. The situation hasn't been helped by the councils themselves, who sent a letter to Unite which stated their refusal to enter negotiations and that their pathetic offer was full and final. The majority of the councils which Labour are in dispute with are Labour councils. Now, the fallout from the Communication Workers Union's dreadful capitulation in the Royal Mail dispute shows no sign of abating. As we reported on the 23rd of July, no sooner had the ink dried on the wretched agreement which the CWU bureaucrats had recommended to its members, Royal Mail went into action, extending attendance reviews by 6 months while the union floundered, eventually releasing a bulletin to their members claiming that they would workshop their way out of the mess they had negotiated their own members into. It now appears that another part of the so-called deal which CWU bureaucrats made has revealed itself to be far worse than members were led to believe. Some 400 reps and activists have been either sacked, suspended or both by Royal Mail during the course of the strike action, which took place during 2022. Now, these cases were to be referred to a review in a deal brokered by the Advisory, Conciliation and Arbitration Service, or ACAS, which is headed by trade union bureaucrat Sir Brendan Barber, who spent his tenure as General Secretary of the TUC snuffing out every class struggle his wretched organisation could, including the public sector pensions dispute in 2011, which left hundreds of thousands of workers paying more into their pensions to get less than when they retire. Now, this review would be headed by Lord Falconer, once a member of the Blair government, who, lest we forget, were part of the illegal invasion of Iraq in 2003 and were responsible for the deaths of 1 million people. In fact, Falconer was key to the creation of what he and his imperialist counterparts in the Blair government believed would be a legal case to justify planning and waging an aggressive war, which unleashed a wave of death and destruction on Iraq and its people. Falconer was also a legal advisor to the British Gold Board during the miners' strike in 1984-85, as evidenced by the release of secret papers by the National Archives. Falconer, who at the time of the miners' strike was a Labour Party member, advised British Coal on how it could open negotiations with the fledgling Nottinghamshire-based group of workers which became the Union of Democratic Mine Workers, a scab union which had broken away from the National Union of Mine Workers, paid its top officials eye-watering salaries, and whose president, or former president, was found guilty of stealing thousands of pounds from a miners' care home charity. Falconer's review, which offers no guarantees that those who'd lost their jobs will get them back, has seen 200 cases referred to it for review. However, the total number of cases the reps and activists disciplined on trumped-up charges is likely to be double this figure, and there's no sign that the remaining 200 cases will be referred to the review, and no answers as to why they were omitted from the review in the first place. So, why did the CWU, including its General Secretary Dave Ward, allow a review to be headed by a man with a history of consistently acting against the interests of the working class? The answer is that this appears to have been a stitch-up created between the CWU leadership, ACAS, with the Labour Party pulling some of the strings. The CWU took months of industrial action in May 2022 until the end of the year, and yet took not one single day of action in 2023, indicating that behind the scenes a deal to end the dispute once and for all was going to be thrashed out and forced on the members whether they wanted it or not. For this review to examine only half of the total number of cases, while the CWU looks in the opposite direction, makes the whole thing look like a union-sponsored stitch-up. The Class Consciousness Project offers its solidarity and support to everyone who's been affected by this, and encourages all Royal Mail workers to agitate in their workplaces to see the full reinstatement of everybody who was sacked or suspended by Royal Mail during this dispute. Now, we've published an article on our website on this development, which includes a model motion that workers can put before their branches, calling on their union executives to take action against the union-busting actions of Royal Mail, and to persuade the TUC to do what it's supposed to do and actually take some action to secure the full reinstatement of the 400 reps and activists. And you can find this all on our website. Turning now to the United States, and the International Brotherhood of Teamsters has ratified a deal between workers and United Parcel Service, so ending their dispute and averting strike action. Included in the deal is a $2.75 per hour pay increase, the introduction of air conditioning standards for delivery vehicles, and a paid day off for Martin Luther King Day. Workers were balloted on the deal, which closed on the 27th of August, and 86% of respondents voted in favour of accepting the 5-year deal with UPS. The UPS deal marks an upturn in workers' wages in the United States. Wage growth has outstripped inflation for the first time in 2 years, and Amazon workers have referenced the deal in their own pay claims, while some economists are looking closely at the deal as they're concerned that the pay rise could start to feed inflation, which shows us all exactly how much economists know about how inflation works. Now, as I said on my last bulletin, not all Teamsters members were convinced that the offer presents the victory that the union proclaimed it has. The majority of UPS's workforce are part-timers, some working only 3.5 hours a day, and while the deal raises all part-timers paid to a minimum of $21 an hour, some believe that this isn't enough. Some took to social media to question the size of the majority by which the deal was approved, while others lamented their union's reluctance to use their huge leverage to demand more concessions from UPS. Now, this deal does represent a considerable improvement to workers' terms and conditions, but in assessing this deal and how the Teamsters won it for their members, we need to ask if the union really did everything that they could to squeeze as much as possible from UPS. And that wraps up our bulletin. But if you're involved in a dispute that you think we should get to know about, please get in touch with us at classconsciousnessproject@gmail.com. You can check out our website at classconsciousnessproject.blog, where we have articles on Labour's latest betrayal of workers, trade unions using war to re-industrialise in this country, a follow-up article on Eurovision's visit to Liverpool, and 2 articles from our comrades at the Revolution Report on American deindustrialisation and US foreign policy. If you like our work and you want to help support us, you can donate via the link in the description, and you can find us on Telegram, on X, on Instagram and on Facebook. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Solidarity.